The station drifted quietly at the edge of known space, far from Earth, and even farther from anything that felt like home. It was called the Harmony Exchange, a place where different species met to learn, observe, and cooperate under strict galactic laws. Everything here was measured, regulated, and recorded. Feelings were considered dangerous variables. Elias Carter stood near the wide observation window, watching a blue-white star pulse softly in the distance. He had been in space for 3 years, but moments like this still made him pause. Space always felt honest to him. Cold, silent, and endless.
No pretending. No rules pretending to be truth.
He adjusted the small translator device on his wrist as a soft tone echoed through the room. His assignment was about to begin. Elias was not a soldier, a scientist, or a politician. He was a human cultural exchange specialist. His job was simple in theory: talk, listen, understand, and help aliens understand humans in return. In reality, it meant walking through invisible lines and hoping not to step on something forbidden. A door behind him slid open with a gentle sound. She entered without hesitation. Sci-Fi moved differently than humans. Her steps were smooth, almost flowing, like she was following patterns only she could see. Her skin carried a faint shimmer, not bright but enough to catch the light. Her eyes were large and dark, reflecting more than just the room. Elias had read her species profile many times, but seeing her in person made the words feel small and incomplete. She stopped a few steps away from him and tilted her head slightly, a gesture that meant acknowledgement. "Human Elias Carter," she said, her voice calm and clear through the translator. "I am Scifi of the Varellan Union. I have been assigned as your linguistic and behavioral counterpart." Elias turned and smiled, a small human habit he often forgot to explain. "Nice to meet you, Scifi," he said. "You can just call me Elias." She paused for a fraction of a second, processing. "Informal address accepted," she replied. "Your preference has been logged." That made him chuckle softly. "You don't have to log everything with me." Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but curiosity. "Everything is logged. That is how stability is maintained." Elias nodded. He had heard this many times before, from many species. Stability, above all else. Predictability was safety. Emotions were risks. They began their walk through the station's inner ring, where shared environments were carefully balanced for different biological needs. Soft lights adjusted as they passed. The air changed almost without notice. Their conversation started. As expected, language structures, idioms, event. Cultural misunderstandings. Scifi asked precise questions. Elias answered honestly, sometimes with humor, sometimes with stories. She listened with complete focus, as if every word mattered equally. And then something strange happened. As Elias explained a common human phrase about trust in your gut, he suddenly felt understood. Not just heard, but understood in a deeper way. It was as if Sally already knew what he meant before the words finished forming. He stopped mid-sentence. "Is something wrong?" Sally asked. "No," he said slowly. "I just forgot what I was going to say." She studied him carefully. "That is statistically unlikely."
"You are speaking with confidence. Humans do unlikely things," Elias replied with a shrug.
Scifi accepted this answer, but something in her posture shifted. Her attention sharpened. As they continued, the feeling did not fade. It grew. Small things became easy. Elias could sense when Sally was about to speak. Scifi responded to his thoughts faster than expected. Their dialogue flowed without effort. By the time they reached the evaluation chamber, Elias felt oddly calm, comfortable, like he had known her longer than a few hours. The chamber was circular, clean, and filled with soft holographic light. This was where compatibility and interaction stability were measured. Elias had done this dozens of times with other species. It was always routine. Scifi stepped into her position across from him. Thin bands of light scanned them both. "Beginning preliminary bond analysis," the system announced. Elias frowned slightly. "Bond analysis?" "That's new." Sally did not look away from the light. "It is standard for all prolonged cooperative assignments." "That hasn't come up before," Elias said. "The law was updated," she replied. The scanning continued longer than usual. The light brightened, then dimmed, then paused completely. Silence filled the chamber. Scifi blinked. That alone was unusual. Her species rarely showed visible signs of surprise.
"The system has detected a resonance," she said carefully. "A what?" Elias asked.
"A developing interpersonal bond," the system continued. "Classification pending." Elias laughed nervously. "That's probably a mistake. Humans are friendly. We joke, we talk a lot."
Sally's gaze slowly shifted to him. "This level of resonance does not form through casual interaction," she said.
"Especially not across species." The system chimed again. Warning. Bond, intensity exceeding, permitted early-stage thresholds. Elias's smile faded. "That sounds bad." Sally took a small step back, her expression unreadable.
"This should not be happening. What does that mean?" Elias asked. She hesitated.
"For my people," she said slowly, "bonds are deliberate, structured." Approved. "They are created only when required." "And for humans," Elias said gently, "they just happen." The system's light shut off completely. "Evaluation suspended," it announced. "Further review required." The chamber doors opened. Sally did not move. Elias waited, unsure if he should speak. Finally, she said something so quiet the translator almost missed it. "This bond formed without authorization." Elias swallowed. "I didn't do anything." "I know," she replied. That was when he realized something important. She wasn't accusing him. She was afraid. They left the chamber together, walking slower now. The station seemed different. Louder. Brighter, like something had shifted, even if no one else could see it yet. Sally stopped near a quiet corridor where no sensors were immediately visible. She turned to face him fully. "There are laws," she said. "Galactic laws. They exist to prevent instability. Emotional bonds across species have caused collapses in the past." Elias listened carefully. "And what happens now?" She looked at him, and for the first time her voice wavered. "Now," she said, "this bond will be investigated." "That sounds serious." "It is," she confirmed. "If the bond continues to grow, it may be classified as a violation." Elias frowned. "We're just talking. Learning. That's the whole point of this place." "Yes," Scifi said. "And yet, something deeper is happening." She paused, then added, "I can feel it." Elias felt it too. A quiet connection, not romantic, not forced. Just there, like trust forming naturally. "I don't want to cause trouble," he said honestly. "Neither do I," Sally replied. They stood there, two beings from different worlds, bound by something neither had planned. Finally, Scifi straightened her posture, returning to professional composure. "For now," she said, "we will continue our assignment as instructed. But you must understand this, Elias Carter." "What?" She met his eyes directly. "If the bond strengthens, the galaxy will not know how to respond." Elias gave a small, human smile. "Humans do that a lot, make things the galaxy doesn't know how to respond to." For a brief moment, something like amusement flickered across her face. Then it was gone. As they walked away in opposite directions, Neither noticed the system quietly logging an unprecedented event. A bond had formed, not through design, not through law, but through simple understanding. And it was only the beginning. The days after the evaluation felt different, even though nothing on the station appeared to change. The lights still shifted gently. The corridors still hummed with controlled life. The Harmony Exchange still followed its rules. But for Elias Carter, everything felt slightly off, like a sound just out of hearing range. He noticed it first during small moments. When he woke up, he felt alert before his alarm sounded. When he walked through the station, he seemed to know when Scifi was nearby. Even before seeing her, it was not a voice or a thought. It was more like a quiet awareness, calm and steady. Scifi noticed it too. She tried to ignore it at first. That was her training. Observe, record, control. Bonds were not emotional experiences for her people. They were structures, tools. But this bond did not behave like a structure. It did not wait for permission. It did not ask for form. It simply existed. During their next scheduled session, Sally arrived precisely on time. Elias was already there, seated near a low table filled with shared learning devices. When he looked up and saw her, he smiled without thinking. That was when she felt it again. A warmth in her awareness, a sense of recognition. She stopped walking. Elias noticed immediately. "You okay?"
"Yes," she said after a brief pause. "I was..."
Adjusting. He nodded, accepting the answer easily. That ease unsettled her more than suspicion would have.
They began their work as planned.
Reviewing human expressions, discussing emotional language. Sally asked why humans use the same word for many different feelings. Elias explained that humans often felt many things at once and lacked better words. "That seems inefficient," Sally said. "It is," Elias replied. "But it's honest." She processed that quietly. As they worked, the bond made itself known in subtle ways. Sally would prepare a question, and Elias would answer it before she spoke. Elias would struggle to explain an idea, and Sally would offer the exact term he needed. Their cooperation felt smooth, almost natural. Too natural. After the session ended, Sally requested a private review with the station's analytical system. She stood alone in the chamber, light scanning her neural patterns. "Port," she said. "Bond resonance remains stable," the system replied. Growth rate within predicted human parameters. Sally's breathing slowed. Human parameters? Yes, humans form unstructured bonds rapidly through shared understanding and emotional alignment.
Zali folded her hands together.
And cross-species risk? That word echoed in her thoughts. Limitation. Later that cycle, Elias sat in the station's communal observation lounge, staring out at the stars again. Humans liked gathering spaces. The galaxy tolerated them. Scifi approached quietly and sat across from him. No assignment required this meeting. That fact alone made it dangerous. "You seek solitude," she said. "I guess," Elias replied. "Or maybe company. Humans aren't always clear about that." She considered his words. "May I remain?" "I'd like that," he said. They sat in silence for a while. It was not awkward. It felt shared. Finally, Scifi spoke. "I reviewed the bond analysis." Elias turned to face her fully. "And?"
"It continues to stabilize," she said.
"Instead of weakening under observation, it adapts. Is that bad?" he asked. "For my people," she replied carefully. "Stability without structure is unsettling." Elias smiled softly. For humans, it's kind of the goal. She looked at him, studying his expression. Why? Because life changes, he said. People change. Bonds that can adapt don't break as easily. That answer stayed with her longer than she expected. In the days that followed, oversight increased. Not openly, but quietly. Elias noticed more system prompts, more reviews, more delays in simple approvals. Sayeli noticed the watchers even more. One cycle, a senior Varellan observer contacted her directly. "You are aware that the bond has drawn attention," the observer said. "Yes," Sayeli replied. "You are expected to control it." Sayeli hesitated. Control may not be possible. There was a pause. "Then you must choose where your loyalty lies." The transmission ended. Sayeli sat alone afterward, the weight of that statement pressing heavily. Loyalty was simple to her people. It was defined, measured. But now, when she thought of Elias, the bond responded with quiet reassurance. Not demand, not pressure, just presence. That frightened her more than conflict. Elias, unaware of the full extent of the pressure she faced, sensed her distance before he understood it. During their next meeting, she was more reserved, more formal. "You're quieter today," he said. "I am functioning within acceptable parameters," she replied. He frowned slightly. "That's not what I asked." She looked away. "You are perceptive." "Humans do that too," he said gently. She met his gaze. "This bond is affecting my decision-making." "Is that bad?" he asked again. "It challenges certainty," she said. Elias leaned back in his chair.
Yeah, that's kind of our thing.
She almost smiled. That night, Sayale experienced something unprecedented. She dreamed. Her species did not dream. Their minds rested differently, but this rest was filled with images, quiet moments, conversations, shared understanding. Elias was there, not as a presence, but as a feeling of safety. She woke, unsettled. The bond was no longer passive. Meanwhile, Elias was called in for a human oversight review. The panel asked questions about his behavior, his feelings, his intentions. He answered honestly, as he always did.
Do you intend to form an attachment? One reviewer asked.
"I don't plan those things," Elias replied.
They just happen.
"That is concerning," the reviewer said.
It's human,
Elias corrected. After the review, Elias walked straight to the observation lounge. Sayeli was already there. "I think they're worried about us," he said. "They are," she confirmed. "Are you?" he asked. She considered the question carefully. "I am uncertain." He nodded. "That makes sense." They stood side by side, looking out into space. "I don't want to hurt you," Elias said quietly. "You are not," she replied just as softly. That was when she said it, without planning, without authorization.
The bond is stronger than expected. Elias turned toward her.
"Is that okay?" She looked at him, eyes reflecting the distant stars. "I do not know." But she did not step away. Somewhere deep in the station's systems, new data patterns formed. The bond was no longer an anomaly. It was becoming a case study. And the galaxy was beginning to realize that understanding humanity meant accepting something it could not easily control. Connection. The change did not arrive loudly. It came quietly, wrapped in procedure and polite concern. That made it more dangerous. The Harmony Exchange announced a system-wide review. No alarms, no lockdowns, just messages delivered in calm voices and neutral language. Routine evaluations, temporary adjustments, increased observation. Nothing that sounded like punishment. Elias felt it immediately. Doors took longer to open. Conversations ended when he entered a room. Requests that once took minutes now took hours. No one accused him of anything, but he could feel the pressure building like invisible hands closing in. Sayali felt it more clearly. Her people understood patterns, and this pattern was unmistakable. The bond had crossed an invisible threshold. It was no longer just an anomaly. It was a problem that needed resolution. They reduced her independent access first. Certain research tools required approval. Certain conversations were flagged. When she asked why, the system responded with familiar words. Stability maintenance. She sat alone in her assigned quarters, hands folded, breathing slowly. The bond responded to her unease, like a gentle presence, steady and calm, not trying to guide her, just reminding her she was not alone. That frightened her more than isolation ever had. Elias requested a meeting, not through formal channels. Just a message, simple and human.
Are you okay? Sayali stared at the words longer than necessary.
Yes, she typed. That was the correct answer. It was also incomplete. They met later in a shared botanical chamber, one of the few places on the station where life grew freely. Plants from dozens of worlds filled the space, chosen for compatibility rather than perfection. Humans liked it here. So did Sayali, though she had never said so. Elias noticed her tension immediately.
They're watching more closely,
he said. Yes, she replied. Is it because of me? She hesitated. It is because of us.
He let out a slow breath. I figured. They walk slowly between the plants.
Leaves shifted softly as air moved through the chamber. My people believe bonds are tools, Sayali said. They serve a purpose, then dissolve. And humans? Elias asked. We do not dissolve easily, she said, surprising herself. He smiled, but it faded quickly. Are they asking you to end it? Yes, the word hung between them. How? He asked. They believe distance will weaken it, she said. Reduced interaction. Increased regulation. And will it? Elias asked. She closed her eyes briefly. No, that truth felt solid. Certain. The bond did not weaken when separated. It adapted. It endured.
Elias nodded slowly. Then what happens if we don't? The bond may be declared a violation, she said.
Not criminal, but dangerous.
Dangerous how? He asked. To establish systems, she replied. That made him laugh quietly. Yeah.
That tracks. Sayali looked at him sharply.
You do not seem afraid. I am, Elias said. Just not of the bond. They stopped walking.
There is something you must understand, Sayali said. If this continues, my role may change.
I may be reassigned or removed.
Removed from the station? Elias asked. Yes. The thought hit him harder than he expected. The bond reacted instantly, a sharp echo of loss neither had words for. Sayali felt it too and steadied herself. That response, she said quietly. That shared distress. That is what alarms them. Elias met her gaze. We're not doing anything wrong. Wrong is defined by outcome, she replied, not intent. Later that cycle, the station convened a joint review council. Representatives from multiple species attended. Elias was present as an observer, Sayali as a subject of inquiry. They spoke of balance, of precedent, of controlled cooperation. Words layered over words until meaning blurred. One representative addressed Elias directly.
Human Carter, your species exhibits unusually high bond formation rates. Do you deny this?
No, Elias said. We call it being social. Your bonds override protocol, the representative said. Sometimes, Elias admitted. But they also build trust faster than any system you've made. Another voice spoke. Trust is unpredictable. So are we, Elias replied. Sae listened silently. The bond hummed with quiet agreement. The council turned to her. Verelan Saeli, they said. Do you acknowledge that this bond compromises your objectivity? She answered honestly. It changes my perspective. Is that acceptable? They asked. She paused. My perspective was limited, she said. Now it is broader. There was murmuring among the council. After the session, Saeli was instructed to limit contact further. Elias was advised to remain cooperative. Neither instruction felt neutral. That night, Elias could not sleep. He paced his quarters, thoughts circling endlessly. Humans bonded deeply. That was true. But this felt different. Not overwhelming. Not consuming. Just solid, reliable. He sent another message. Do you regret it? Sally replied after a long delay. No. That single word carried more weight than pages of data. The next day, Saeli made a choice. She requested access to historical archives, not recent cases. Ancient ones, records of early interspecies contact, before laws hardened into doctrine. What she found changed everything. There were other cases, rare, suppressed, bonds that form naturally between different species. Each time the response had been the same. Separation, silence, erasure. And each time the result had been loss. Not collapse, not disaster. Just lost opportunity, understanding that never had a chance to grow. She shared the data with Elias. They were afraid, he said after reading. Yes, Saeli replied.
Of change.
The bond responded with quiet resolve. They met again in the botanical chamber. Surveillance devices were present, but they no longer tried to hide.
I think they believe bonds like ours will break the galaxy, Elias said.
And yet, Saeli said, the galaxy remains intact? He smiled. Because humans adapt, and we help others adapt too, whether they want to or not. She looked at him seriously. If this continues, I may be asked to formally reject the bond. And if you don't, he asked, I may be reassigned permanently, she said. Away from human contact. The bond pulsed with shared sadness, not touching, just present. I won't ask you to choose me, he said. That wouldn't be fair. Sally studied him. You do not need to ask. She paused, then added, that is what frightens them most. The bond had reached a new state, no longer just connection. Now it carried intent, not control, not possession, commitment. The station systems flagged another anomaly that cycle. Bond resonance no longer fluctuated under stress. It stabilized further. The galaxy had tried to contain it. Instead, it had proven something dangerous. Human bonds did not weaken under pressure. They grew stronger, and the question was no longer whether the bond violated galactic law. The question was whether galactic law was strong enough to survive it. If you're ready, Part 4 will be where the galaxy confronts the truth about humanity, and Saeli makes a decision that changes more than just her future. The decision did not come suddenly. It had been forming for a long time, shaped by every conversation, every shared silence. Every moment the bond proved it was not fragile. Saeli felt it clearly now. Avoiding it would be the real violation. The Harmony Exchange entered a new phase of oversight. The language remained polite, but the meaning was firm. Final evaluations. Conclusive recommendations.
Resolution? Elias was informed first.
A message appeared on his console while he was reviewing cultural notes. It requested his presence at a joint assembly. Attendance mandatory. Purpose listed as bond outcome determination. He sat back slowly, staring at the words. The Bond responded at once, calm but alert. He did not need to message Sally. He knew she already felt it. She was in her quarters when the notice reached her. Her breathing slowed, her posture straightened. This was the moment her people prepared for. Resolution, restored order. And yet, the bond did not tighten or resist. It waited. They arrived at the assembly chamber separately. The room was large, open, and carefully balanced for many species. Representatives appeared as holograms or physical forms depending on preference. The atmosphere was neutral by design, but tension still found a way in. Sayili took her place among the Virellan delegates. Elias stood with the human observers. They did not look at each other at first. They did not need to. The council spoke in careful tones. They reviewed data, charts, growth curves, predictive models. All pointed to the same conclusion. The bond had not weakened. It had matured.
This level of cross-species resonance has no precedent under current law,
one delegate said. Correction, another replied.
It has no precedent that was permitted to continue.
Silence followed that statement. The council turned to Siley.
You have been instructed to limit this bond, they said. Have you complied?
Yes, she answered honestly. I have reduced interaction. And the result? The bond adapted, she said. Murmurs followed. The bond did not flare. It remained steady, almost patient. They turned to Elias. Human Carter, a representative said. Do you acknowledge that your species' bonding behavior presents a systemic risk? Elias considered his answer carefully. Simple. Honest.
I acknowledge that we don't stop bonding just because it's inconvenient, he said. But risk isn't always harm.
Sometimes it's growth.
That is an emotional interpretation,
the representative replied.
Yes, Elias said. That's the point. Saeli felt something shift in the room.
Not agreement, not rejection. Curiosity. The council presented the final options. The bond could be formally dissolved through enforced separation and cognitive distancing. No pain, no punishment, just distance until the resonance faded. Or, Saeli could voluntarily sever the bond by declaring it invalid, rejecting its influence, and requesting reassignment away from human contact indefinitely. The chamber remained silent. Saeli felt the weight of countless eyes on her. Her people valued clarity, certainty. This was supposed to be easy. She closed her eyes briefly. The bond responded, not with urgency, not with fear, just presence. A quiet reminder of shared understanding, of growth, of choice. She opened her eyes. I request permission to speak freely, she said. The council paused, then agreed.
My people believe bonds exist to serve function, Sayeli said. They are tools, created with intent and ended with purpose.
This bond did not follow those rules, and that is why it is valuable.
Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. This bond has not reduced my capacity, she continued.
It has expanded it. I understand humans better.
I understand myself better. And through this bond, I have observed something the galaxy has long misunderstood. She looked toward Elias, then back to the council. Human bonds do not erase individuality. They reinforce it. They do not destabilize systems. They reveal which systems are too rigid to grow. The bond hummed, steady and strong. One delegate spoke sharply.
You are prioritizing emotion over law.
No,
Saeli replied calmly. I am prioritizing reality over fear.
Silence followed. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. Pride, respect, care. All human, all steady. The council withdrew to deliberate. Time passed slowly, too slowly. Elias stood still, hands clasped behind his back. He did not look at Sally, but he felt her presence clearly. The bond bridged the distance easily. If they separated us, he thought, I'll still carry this. She felt it and answered silently, and I will too. The council returned. Their decision was not what anyone expected. The bond will not be dissolved at this time, they announced. Instead, it will be classified as an emergent phenomenon under observation. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Sci-Fi remained still. Elias let out a slow breath. However, the council continued, this bond will be presented to the wider galactic body for review. Its implications extend beyond this station. That was not safety. That was exposure. After the assembly, Sci-Fi and Elias met for the first time, without formality, in days. They stood in the botanical chamber again, surrounded by quiet life. They didn't end it, Elias said. No, Sci-Fi replied. They postponed understanding. That sounds like them, he said gently. She looked at him. This will not become easier, I know, he said.
But neither will pretending it doesn't exist.
She nodded. For the first time, she reached out and placed her hand lightly against his arm. Not a gesture of bonding by her people's standards. Just contact. The bond responded warmly. Across the station, conversations began. Other species noticed changes. Humans spoke more openly about their bonds. Some aliens listened. Some resisted. The bond was no longer hidden. It was a question being asked of the entire galaxy. Could connection be allowed to exist without control? Sally stood at the observation window later, watching stars drift slowly past. Elias joined her. My people taught me that order was safety, she said. Now I wonder what we lost by believing that alone. Elias smiled softly. Humans believe safety comes from not being alone. She looked at him. Your species is dangerous. He laughed quietly. We get that a lot. The bond remained. Not as rebellion, not as defiance, but as proof. Proof that the galaxy could be more than its laws, and that humanity's greatest strength was not force or intelligence or reach into the stars. It was the simple refusal to face the universe without holding on to someone else. The galaxy did not change all at once. It never did. Change came slowly, through conversations, reports, quiet debates, and moments of uncomfortable honesty. But once the question had been asked, it could not be taken back. The bond between Elias Carter and Sally was no longer just a private matter or a quiet concern. On a single station, it had become a subject of discussion across many systems. Councils requested data. Cultural groups asked questions. Scholars argued. Some voices warned of danger. Others spoke of opportunity. Through it all, the bond remained steady. Elias continued his work on the Harmony Exchange. He spoke openly now, not defensively, about how humans formed bonds. He explained that humans did not see connection as weakness. They saw it as survival, as strength, as something that helped them endure loss, distance, and uncertainty. We don't bond because it's safe, he told one assembly. We bond because it's necessary. Sci-Fi listened from her place among the delegates. Each time he spoke, she felt the bond respond, not with pride, but with agreement. It was not about him proving anything. It was about truth being spoken without fear. She also spoke, when asked, calmly, clearly, without apology. My people feared bonds because we believed they would limit us, she said. Instead, this bond expanded my understanding. It did not take away my identity. It clarified it. Some delegates resisted. They spoke of past failures, of collapses blamed on emotional ties, of civilizations that had fallen apart when bonds overruled order. Sci-Fi acknowledged those histories. But those failures came from fear, she said. from forcing bonds to end instead of learning how to live with them. The bond did not demand agreement. It allowed patience. Time passed. The harmony exchange became quieter in some ways and louder in others. Fewer restrictions were placed on conversation. More species began observing humans closely, not as risks, but as case studies. Humans, in turn, listened when aliens spoke about structure, balance, and restraint. Not everything blended easily. There were misunderstandings, discomfort, long pauses where no one knew what to say. Humans were used to that. Scifi learned something new during this time. She learned how humans sat with uncertainty without trying to erase it, how they accepted not knowing as part of being alive. That lesson stayed with her longer than any data. One cycle, a message arrived from the Galactic Accord. A revision hearing had been scheduled. Not a repeal, not a judgment, a revision. The language was careful, but the meaning was clear. The galaxy was ready to change, not because it had been forced, but because it had been shown something it could not ignore. Elias and Scifi stood together in the observation lounge as stars drifted past. "Are you nervous?" Elias asked. "Yes," Scifi replied. "And no." He smiled. "That sounds about right." During the hearing, representatives spoke honestly for the first time. Not just about rules, but about fear, about control, about the belief that predictability was the same as safety. One voice asked the question that had lingered unspoken for too long. "If bonds like this are allowed," they said, "what will stop chaos?" Elias answered simply. "Trust," he said. That answer did not satisfy everyone, but it made them think. Scifi added, "Chaos does not come from connection. It comes from denying it. The revised accord did not remove laws. It expanded them. Bonds were no longer classified as violations by default. They were recognized as emergent phenomena, requiring understanding rather than suppression. It was not perfect, but it was real. When the hearing ended, no one celebrated loudly. Change did not feel like victory. It felt like relief. Back on the station, life settled into a new rhythm. Elias and Scifi continued their work, still under observation, but no longer under threat. The bond no longer needed to defend itself. It simply existed. One evening, they returned to the botanical chamber. The plants had grown thicker over time, roots intertwining beneath the surface in ways unseen. Scifi studied them thoughtfully. "Your people would call this a bond," she said. Elias nodded. "They grow better together." She looked at him. "So do we." He did not argue. They stood side by side, comfortable in the quiet. The bond did not surge or demand attention. It had become part of them, like breath. Far beyond the station, other species began experimenting with looser connections, not copying humans, learning from them. Some bonds failed, some succeeded. All taught something. Humanity did not lead through force or command. They led by example. By showing that connection did not weaken resolve, it strengthened it. Scifi received a message from her home world not long after. It was brief, formal, but different from any she had received before. "Your experience has changed our understanding. Continue." She read it twice. Elias noticed her stillness. "Good news?" "Yes," she said. "Change." He smiled softly. "Told you, we're contagious." She let out a sound that might have been laughter, as the station drifted through space, carrying countless stories. One truth became clear. The galaxy had spent a long time building laws to protect itself from fear. Humans had spent a long time building bonds to protect themselves from loneliness. When the two finally met, something new was born. Not conquest, not rebellion. Understanding. And somewhere between the stars, An alien girl had been right. Their bond was stronger than any galactic law. Not because it broke the rules, but because it showed the galaxy how to grow beyond them.